Welcome to another Tools of the Trade. Today we're looking at another weather generation tool. And yes, this is video number 2. The first one got far too long because I delved into every corner of that program and it was just simply too long. So again, I'm trying to keep it as short as I can. Therefore, Active Sky from Hi-Fi Simulation Technology. It's a program that generates weather. It doesn't depict it. The weather depictions, the way that clouds and so on are displayed, that is done by your simulator, either default means, or you have something like Ultra Weather XP or Sky Max Pro. Not XEnviro. I don't think XEnviro is compatible with Active Sky. I may be wrong, but I don't think it is. So how your weather is shown in the simulator is not what Active Sky does at the moment. Active Sky just generates the cloud layers and the winds and so on, the temperatures, snow, rain, all that kind of thing, and ingests it into the simulator. And at that it is quite good because like the FS Global Real Weather program, which is another weather generation tool, it will actually combine several sources of information instead of one source, as the X-Plane would do when you have online weather or real-time weather. And it will combine several sources of information and build a more comprehensive model out of it. And that means that whatever weather it's ingesting in your simulator is a little bit more, probably more accurate, or at least more interesting than the pure black and white kind of weather that you get with standard meta information. Right. I don't have the simulator running because I want to concentrate on the tool and I want to keep it short. Therefore, let's quickly go through the program. This is the home page. It gives you your favorite stations. They're usually the ones that you selected. You can select what stations you will be in more often. Not sure where it got this one from. I actually haven't set any, so it just assumes probably. Then we have news. On June 25 was the last update of this program. So at the moment it's 04.16.19 B7045, which is also up here, the version. This is the most current one apparently. And we are in so-called real-time mode, real-time weather mode, and we're waiting for the simulator, which I'm not going to start. You need to go through an installation process. When you get this program, you will have to use a combination of registering with Hi-Fi, some passwords, some serial number things. So there's several layers of things you have to go through before it's activated, and then it will ask you for a login every single time when you start it. Okay. The ARAC is 1601, so if you do not have Navigraph, you will have data from 2016, which is okay for a weather program. You don't need to have a Navigraph subscription in order to run this program successfully. Okay, there are some storms here, so if you're interested in storms, then you can go to these airports. This is 5 Sierra 00 or something like that, I think is the airport. I'm not sure where that is. Anyway, so that's the home page. Then comes the WX control, the weather control. Basically, you have 3 options: live weather, which is probably the one that you're going to use most. The possibility to switch to a historical weather. I'm not sure how far back that goes, but you can actually pick weather from a certain date. And Active Sky, Hi-Fi have a database that you can pull data from. That's one of the services you get with a company like Hi-Fi. And it's actually able to pull weather also from a previous time. Not sure how far back. Or you make your own custom weather. You can store this custom weather as a file and you can read it in and make sure that you have the exact same weather conditions every time you use this. All right. There's this load weather file, so Active Sky will save weather if you use the save weather file option, and therefore you can create weather situations and can recall them again anytime. Then there's the map. Now, similar to the FSX prepared version of Active Sky, it is a rough depiction of the weather. It's okay. It gives you an idea. It also gives you an idea about the winds. So here we can see some wind directions. I'm actually not sure. I'm still trying to find where you can set the altitude for the winds. Show weather here, add new custom weather area. You can create areas actually where it would show on the map. There's a range, so you can, it's kind of a zoom. All right. And here's the clouds. Greenish, I think, is the precipitation areas that can actually go into the, no, green, yeah, well, it's hard to say actually. I think it's the visibility. Then we have the clouds. And then there is also, if there's rain and so on, I think it's depicted as well. It can be a little bit, well, let's say it's not the most useful map. If you want to see weather really good, go to windy.com, another tool that I have a video for, and it might be a bit more helpful. Anyway, that's the map. You can select what you want to see on the map, and you can actually go into forecast. That means if you say, what's the weather like in 4 hours? I think you need to be a bit closer for that. Or not, or maybe, yeah, here. So that's what the weather looks in 4 hours, then in 8 hours, then in 12 hours. And to be honest, it doesn't look that much different. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Let's see, 12 hours from now. Yeah, so there are some changes. You can see how things may develop over the next couple of hours. Conditions, that's handy. When you're connected with your simulator, it will show you the closest airport unless you enter the airport as ICAO up here. You can also have this favorite list I have been telling you about. And you could also pick it on the map. That's the same map we've just been in. Here we see Munich, for example. It's 0820 Zulu. That's plus 2 hours. So 1020 local. I don't think so. It is 11 o'clock local. We seem to have a little... last updated. Hang on. That's not the local time. This is actually... Last update was about 50 minutes ago. So the weather we see here is at least 50 minutes old. And it shows that Munich still has... Well, clear is not quite right. Actually, we do have quite a bit of clouds. And we're expecting some rain in the early afternoon. And after that, temperatures will drop from the 20s up down to the 10s somewhere, at least according to the weather report I have seen. So quite good. It gives you also the weather report decoded so that if you can't read these things, you can look here. Flight plan, you can go and load any kind of flight plan. For example, from Los Angeles to San Diego. This is a very short one. And that can help you also because in theory, it should also show that on the map. I thought it should, but maybe not. So we have the flight plan here, and you can also provide an alternate, the cruise altitude, and it will calculate what the weathers and the conditions are like at every single waypoint. Now that's not a very good flight plan. Maybe we use that one here. So we see a bit more. It's flight level 310, and it will actually adjust this to reflect the weather that you're going to meet at flight level 310. Now, windy.com gives you very accurate current weather information, but here the weather is delayed, especially when we use VATSIM weather. These are usually 1 hour to 2 hours delayed. They're not 100% accurate, so don't be surprised if you don't see the clouds that you have when looking out of your window in the simulator. They might come later, but there is a delay, and it can be up to 2 hours, I think, depending also on the airport. In some locations it might be a bit more up to the point, but the remoter your airport is and the more unusual your airport is, the less likely it is that your weather is extremely current. So, briefing. This is actually a very lengthy briefing for your whole route if you have defined the route. Very interesting. You can go through this, and this is the weather conditions you will meet when in the simulator. That's the point. You can actually let Active Sky talk you through, but that is a little bit lengthy, so I'm stopping it here again. Actually, the sound functionality works quite nice. With 122.0, you can call up the ATIS at your departure airport. It's important that it knows where you want to fly from and to. With 122.02, I think it's the arrival weather report, and 05, I think, is the en route or is the briefing or something like that. So you can set up certain frequencies on your simulator radio and it will talk to you. It's nice. That's a nice feature. And if you're looking for specific weather somewhere in your simulator world, especially for, let's say, a hurricane or something like that, or heavy precipitation, in order to do something that is a bit more exciting than clear skies, here is a way to look for airports with a specific weather condition. For example, we can look for rain or snow, and we can see in Canada we do have rain a lot, and the further north, like here in Greenland, we might even see some snow potentially. Okay, so interesting thing to find airports with, let's say, not so normal weather. Right, that's it from the functions. What you can do here is in options. There are loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of options. I'm only going to pick out a few of them in the interest of time too. And anyway, you will need time to go through this program and explore it. So download interval might be interesting because this will now update the weather every 15 minutes. If you need it more often, you can bring this down. If you say, I don't care, if I get a weather update every 30 minutes, that'll be enough. There you go. Prevent downloads on approach. You should probably turn this on because that prevents you from being on an ILS approach and suddenly the wind changes by 180 degrees. Can happen and can be quite distracting, and the landing rates and your landing might be actually in jeopardy if that happens. So I have this turned off so that the wind that was on when I started the approach will also be on when I landed on the runway. Okay. VATSIM online weather. If you're flying online, EVEO or VATSIM, doesn't matter really. They have the same source for weather. There might be some different timing in EVEO or VATSIM, but basically I think they're pretty close. Usually they're very close. They're pretty much the same. So if you turn on VATSIM weather, you get the weather is constructed from the source that VATSIM uses and EVEO uses. Yeah, you set up your simulator here. You need to tell it where X-Plane is, and also then export folder where you would put all these weather files I've shown you just before. There is a web sort of interface where you could go with a browser and get some weather information via a browser. I'm not going to go into these kind of details. Depict hurricanes, very interesting. It says check this to depict hurricane using real data and live conditions. Works with both live and historical data. Changing this option requires both an application and simulator restart. That means it will try and somehow create something in the simulator that looks pretty much like the hurricane. And we have a hurricane currently off the Bahamas and heading possibly towards Florida, as far as I heard. Then there are some settings for clouds, for wind options. I'm not going to go through these, okay? So have a look yourself. The audio options, that might be another one that's interesting. Yeah, the startup sound, this is actually a very loud thunder. I actually turned that off. Yeah, I forgot to do that because it is quite, it is very loud. When you start Active Sky, you kind of, I usually hop off my chair. Play wind shear and aural alerts. So these are external facilities. Here's this ASUS flight watch thingy. Here's the frequencies, 122.0, 0.02, and 0.05. You can turn this off, but if you have it on and you tune the respective frequency, then you will hear things. Preferred audio device, you can set up where you want to hear this. If you have a separate headset and, let's say, loudspeakers for your simulator or something, you could actually put this into your headset so that it doesn't play over the normal audio. If you have more than one audio device, that is. The volume, yeah, it is quite high actually. Good that I remember. So let's put this down a little bit. And yeah, that start warning options, force QNH in voice weather messages. Actually, this is something, if you're predominantly flying in Europe, you should probably turn this on. Or if you're flying in the States as a European, and you're getting a little bit mixed up with all this inch and millibar stuff, you could actually force it to give you millibar ATIS and show you the millibar ATIS instead of the inches, and that might be a bit easier. Unless you have an airplane that shows you both anyway, and then it's easy. You either dial in the one or the other, right? Yeah, and that's almost it, because there is this here. This is the texture. Now, you do not have to do this, and I had a little issue. For some reason, it had difficulties bringing the textures in. It copied some textures, and then it gave me an error message, and it stopped. But what it did is it somehow changed my some of my brightness settings and so on in the simulator, and also the sky textures. So everything is actually, I have the feeling it's a bit brighter, so I turned off BlueFX for the moment, because since I've done this failed texture update, things have become brighter. And that's not because I have BlueFX, because I turned BlueFX off, and even with ultra weather, I can't remember having changed anything in that regard. I may be wrong though, it could be ultra weather, but it happened after I've done this update. Normally what it should do is it should replace your sky colors, textures for clouds. To be honest, there's only one set and I don't really like it. At the moment, Active Sky offers you to replace the default textures, cloud textures of and sky textures of X-Plane. If you have something like ultra weather, you should probably not use this. I tried this, didn't really like what I saw apart from the error, and I reverted it. I just left the bright sky colors because I think the sky colors look actually quite nice, right? And here we go, 18 minutes. It's still in my 20-minute sort of goal. That's it. I think you've seen everything you need to see. The rest you need to explore yourself. Thing is, I have FS Global Real Weather, and now I have Active Sky. And to be honest, I prefer the weather that Active Sky produces. I got Active Sky actually for half price because there was a very good sale on again. They do this regularly. If you have time, wait for sales. You should always do this if you can, because there's a lot of money to be saved, especially with hi-fi products, for example. They usually can come quite cheap if you wait for the respective sale, right? So I got it at a sale. I thought, also because I'm doing videos, you know, normally I would have probably not done this, but because I do videos and I see things in other YouTubers' videos, I got it. And so far, I actually prefer it to FS Global Real Weather, to be honest. But that's right now. I may change my mind. Right, that's it. I hope that gave you a quick and very fast and rough overview of what Active Sky does. The clouds that you see in my current X-Plane 11 videos and streams when I do online flying or doing my ferry flight now with the Eclipse. These are all done by Active Sky. That's what I use to create the weather for these. So you can see the results of Active Sky in my videos right now when I use a weather generation program. Okay, that's it. Until next time. Bye.